Ninja, back for another tutorial video. Today I'm going to be going over Sanchin Dachi. Dachi means stance, and Sanchin has a couple different meanings, but in a nutshell, we call it three battles, or the three battle stance. It's a short range stance, and usually is the first stance taught at most karate schools or Okinawan karate schools. I'm going to be going through the spectrum of beginner all the way up through advanced, if you want to call it that, for proper body mechanics. And then throughout the video, I'm going to share my own personal ideas of what the intention of this stance is, from turning it into a solid rudimentary stance into practical applications or things that have to do with how it should be applied. So I'm going to be changing some angles so you can see some differences, and hopefully you'll enjoy it and you can add some of it into your training. Some of it, I think there will be a kind of across the board agreement with some things. Some of the things may be different, but either way, hopefully you can use some of it. So I'm going to jump right into it. Okay? So from a front view, get into a square stance like we usually do. Oh, and another thing too, the reason why I chose not to wear a gi in this video is because sometimes the gi pants can hide the knees and thigh placement and whatnot. So I decided to wear shorts, fight shorts, so that you could see how I position my body and hopefully bridge some gaps that you may have or questions from your instructor or something like that. So anyways, start out in just a square stance, kamae hands here. I'm going to step with my right foot forward, and as in most traditional karate stances, we circle our feet, which I'll explain in the video why, because we know we don't fight by circling our feet at our opponent. But anyways, we're here, I circle my feet in and out. I'm going to put my hands on my hips while I move back and forth. Now, this stance, three things you need to keep in mind, or three things to remember when you first start out with this stance. Three basic attributes. Feet should be under your shoulders, okay? So you make little adjustments, feet width apart. That way your feet aren't too close together and they're not too far apart. So feet shoulder width. Secondly, you need to have heel-toe length in your stance, which means, as you can see, I have a line on the floor right here, which is a good tool to use, whether you can put a piece of tape down for your students or they can use the seams of a wood floor to help them out. So one of my feet is toes, the other one's going to be right on the other side with the heel. So that's what we say, heel to toe. Okay? From that point, we move on to the third attribute for a beginner. It's an important one, and one that most people from the outside will look at and go, "What? Why are you standing like that?" But we take our feet and we turn them slightly inward. Okay? It's almost like for lack of a better term, some kind of pigeon-toed type posture. So there's the three. Feet shoulder width, feet heel to toe, and feet turned slightly inward with the knees bent as usual. Our hands are on our hips or our belt or obi if we have one on. From this point, we circle our feet together, back out. One more, circle our feet together, back out. Going back, it's the same thing. Circle the feet in and out, circle the feet in and out, okay? Now those are really the basics of Sanchin. You should practice the circling in and out, moving back and forth down the line, okay? Now if we're moving in, we want to start opening it up, analyzing it a little bit, and the purpose why we put our feet in those postures. So, as I said before, it's a short range stance. So short range, what does that mean? Well, to me, short range means that the opponent that I'm in an altercation or defending myself against is not far away, like you would see in this, kind of old style, not old style, but long range fighting stance where you have to jump in and punch. The person's attacked us, and now our feet are short range, okay? We're not necessarily in a grappling match yet, because usually you'll widen your stance, but we're here and they are here. So that's one purpose I see for the Sanchin stance. Second purpose which has to do with the fact of turning your feet inward. Now I know the old, not myth, but the old reasoning was, oh, well, if your feet are turned in and you go to get hit in the groin, you bend your knees down. Well, okay, that might be a defensive posture or position that you can use. But even if the leg comes sweeping up, yeah, you can block it like this, but what happens if somebody kicks you directly? Yeah, you can pull your hips back, but you're most likely going to get hit in the groin. So I personally don't think that's the main reason. What I do think is the main reason for having your feet turned inward is an overtraining tool, which is something that you see a lot in karate. Overtraining meaning that you're overdoing or over-exaggerating a move so that you can train yourself to react even half as much as the overtraining tool provides. Okay, like a chamber for punching, yeah, it has a purpose, hikite, like pulling hand in karate, but also it shows you that you're not punching like this, that you're gonna draw back a little bit and punch for more power. The reason why I think that you turn your feet inward is because if you ever watch any fight videos, or when you get new people in your dojo or dojang or MMA gym or Muay Thai school, if they get attacked, one of the first things that they do out of fear is put one leg back, turn their body sideways, sometimes even look the other way because they don't want to get hit, okay? So this right here, I don't think, this back leg specifically, I don't think it's a good posture to be in when you're fighting. You've shortened your range of punching and power, and you're easily, attacked or overrun by somebody else. So by having your feet turned inward, you're overtraining your body to bring the back foot hip forward and squarely face somebody. After doing it over time, you're going to train yourself that if you're attacked, not to turn sideways and step back and let this foot kick out. Again, shorten your range, striking power. When somebody attacks you, you're going to step back and at least have that leg halfway between perpendicular and halfway between forward, somewhere in the middle, which is a better fighting posture. Okay, the hip is pretty much there, and it's not that hard to bring the hip through or kick the foot out or go up on the ball of the back foot, depending upon how you're striking. Sometimes you see Sanchin, the actual kata, where everybody's doing the heavy breathing, or in Wei Chi Ru, and the guys are striking them and whatnot. And that has to do with upper body, but a lot with grounding too, because if any part of that stance, let's say, if you're not heel to toe, you have a student that's shortening his stance, and you do Sanchin shime, where you hit them, they might fall forward, or they might fall back because, again, their stance isn't long enough, okay? So, moving into some more of the movement posture here, the circling in, circling out, we know that we're not going to get in an altercation. Somebody attacks, we step back properly, and then we're going to fight them like this, by circling our feet in and out, okay? That's not really what it's intended for. But there's different intentions, I feel, for it. I feel like for one, it could be an evasive maneuver. So you're attacked, you step back, somebody goes to kick or attack you. Maybe you do bring your feet together to turn to the side, okay? Maybe you do circle around their foot to get inside to grapple with them, right? If they also have a defensive posture, you can always bring your feet outside of theirs to go in and grab, but you have another intention, which might be to circle in and out and get inside of them. I also feel that the circling in and out, when you get in close range of somebody, if their foot is inside of yours, it's easy for foot sweeps like ashibarai, lifting the leg, stomp kicks, bringing your feet together. So it's not, again, that you're going to, oh, I got attacked, and then you're going to go, come here, let me fight you, let me get away from you. I don't feel like that's the reasoning. And recently, in physical rehabilitation videos that I've watched, people who have like shoulder rehab and hip rehab and knee rehab, I see them introduce these circular motions to help gain mobility and strength. And with the hip knee replacement in athletes such as football players and basketball players, I see that they do these exercises where they have their one foot on a coaster, and they do kind of a three-way leg exercise where they don't lift their feet. They slide it back, then close together, then out, and close together, then forward. And they do these exercises. So there's a little bit of strength training that goes with it. One major thing that I did forget to say, so there really be the three main focuses of the foot placement, but also the fact that we slide our feet on the ground. We don't lift up and step. Okay, that's one major thing I missed because I'm spitballing and I have hundreds of ideas going on in my head as I'm explaining this. But sliding the feet is a purpose that I think has two purposes within it. And one is what I just explained with starting to build strength in the pelvis and knee and hip area by having to push your feet. And the second one is that on the concrete with sneakers, you're not going to fight somebody and go slide your foot out, but you're also not going to go and stomp your foot, lift your foot way up. So you're going to find a happy medium there because, again, it goes back to the overtraining rule that if we want our foot to come up a millimeter on the concrete so at any given time we can put our foot down and defend, we're going to overtrain it by pushing and sliding our feet. Now you could say that would develop a bad habit, but everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And in any situation where I've done kumite sparring or unfortunately had to defend myself outside of the dojo, I've never went to go step out by sliding my foot on the concrete, getting stuck and falling. It's always been an inch, millimeter away to put my hands up or to move or to grapple. So moving back into better mechanics for the Sanchin. We have our feet in the place of Sanchin here, hands on the hips or hands on the belt. What I see sometimes is people overturn their feet, okay? And you see a lot of Okinawan masters do that. And that's probably great for a traditional sense of this is how I was taught, this is how I'm going to do it. But it also exposes the side of your knee, and I don't feel like that's very efficient for your body mechanics. I don't feel like it's very good for your joints. So I, again, find somewhere halfway where it's comfortable. My knees are still not relaxed, but they're not strained or getting twisted or torqued on. From this position, we want to slightly kick the front foot out and then step through. Okay. The reason for that, if you keep your feet planted at this angle, this angular position, and you go to turn, you're going to really swing from left to right. Okay, you're going to have to come together, my whole body shifted to the right, and then it's going to shift back to the left. If I keep my foot planted at an angle and I don't move it before I step forward, I'm going to have to swing one way and swing the other way. If I allow myself to slightly straighten my foot, then my hips can move better forward without swinging as much. It's harder to do when you move slower, but it's only a little bit of a left and right, not a huge left and right and plant. Okay, hopefully that shows up better on video. I also feel that Sanchin should be a stance that is used when somebody grabs you initially. So if somebody grabs you initially, I would be cautious about stepping way back. I'm not talking about a shoot for your legs. I'm talking about a stand-up type grappling position. When somebody grabs you, you want to get into a position that's somewhat similar to Sanchin. And then from that point on, you can choose to move to like Shikodachi, or if somebody goes to shoot, you can sprawl, something like that. Because if you don't, if you have your feet are too close together, or left to right, they're too close together, front to back, it's going to be easier for somebody to sweep or trip you. So let me recap real quick. When we do Sanchin, feet shoulder width, toe and heel, our heel and toe are on the same line, feet slightly turned in, and knees are bent. When we go to step forward, we open up the front foot a little bit with the knees bent, we step through, land, okay? Now once we've got that down, we want to move, we want to concentrate every time we step with opening it up, keeping the knees bent. The knees here may be in a tight kind of locked position for strength and power if we're doing punches or whatnot. When we go to move, everything needs to go loose, okay? Everything in your legs needs to go loose, legs and hips. There's a slight drop. It's not necessarily we're coming here and we're bending our knees to step through. It's more just of a slight drop, because it's the same as if you were to always lock your legs and walk like normal, but you'd walk like a stilt man, and that's not how we walk naturally. It's not how our movements are. Our knees, without us knowing it, consciously loosen, step through, tighten. loosen, step through, tighten for a half a second to stabilize your body. So we replicate that those same movements with Sanchin because everything needs to go back to natural. So we're here, we're tight, we did whatever technique it is, so whatever, we stop somebody's motion, we go to step forward or back, the knees, hips, pelvis, loosen. We step through, we come up. First, always from the ground up. This is getting more in depth. Always from the ground up. So the first movement, our feet plant. We tighten our toes by squeezing the floor, almost as if we're trying to grip the floor and pull ourselves forward with our toes each time. Grip the floor, ankles, knees lock, thighs, hips, okay? Here's another aspect you need to put into your Sanchin. If I'm here and I take a step forward, of course we always want to keep our back upright, but this back leg, the back heel, up to the shoulder should be connected together. Okay, you should never bend forward at the waist, you should never bend back. And I see that a lot. I see the shoulders protruding or going farther back than the hip or the buttocks. But in actuality, there should be a slight tilt of the pelvis forward, okay, so that the heel and the shoulder are on a straight line that's not upright, that's a little bit angled forward. I don't mean a lot, I don't mean you're hanging out over here where your chest is over your front knee or front foot, but instead of your weight sitting back in Sanchin, we always say there's a 50-50, in the beginning there's a 50-50 weight distribution between one leg or the other. As you get a little bit more advanced, it's really going to be a 60-40, okay? Because you either have to transfer weight from, if you're 50-50, you have to transfer weight to one leg to step forward and then transfer weight back to another to step back, which we know takes a millisecond, and milliseconds in fighting, combat, self-defense, can be life or death, or winning or losing, or getting hurt, not getting hurt. So as we go more, we're gonna have our weight or our idea or conscious going forward in the stance here. Lastly, I'll add that the hips, okay, once you step through, your pelvis is loose and it's kind of tilted back because that's more natural than sticking your pelvis or your hips forward. It's natural here. Once you get here, the pelvis, which is kind of angled back, will come forward and tighten, and that's the groin, the core, the tendon area, as the Okinawans Japanese call it, and that's the locking motion, which more has to do with what traditional karate focuses on versus more like a fight school. I don't think you're gonna have to concentrate a lot in this area, but that's also why sometimes in Okinawan and Japanese schools, when they're doing the Sanchin training, you'll see an Okinawan master. It's not uncommon for him to walk right up to you and push right above your groin and make sure that that area is both tilted forward and tightened. They'll push to make sure that your whole core, your whole spinal alignment with your pelvis is tightened, buttocks tightened, because then at that point they feel like you're in the most advantageous position that you could be. So, recap one more time, and then I'll let you guys go. So, start out, feet on one line, hands on the hips, circle in out, first one, get to where you need to be, adjust your feet, shoulder width, heel to toe, feet turned inward, gripping with the toes. Loosen the toes, loosen the knees, circle in, circle out, feet plant, grip with the toes, tighten ankles, knees, thighs, then pelvis, chest up straight, and now you're in a good position to move forward or backwards, okay? I hope that, some of the technicalities can be placed in your training, and I didn't confuse you along the way, but I just wanted to cover a vast majority because I noticed some of my videos are really just for beginner level, but I enjoy teaching more advanced techniques and advanced thinking, I guess. If you hate to use the word advanced because it's, a straight punch will always be a straight punch. You just get better at a straight punch. So Sanchin will always be Sanchin. You just get better at it. There's no secret to it. There's no, I don't like the word humitsu, which some of you know is in Okinawan karate, katas and bunkais and whatever. It's all the same. We're all humans. we're all defined to the same movements. In karate's aspect of a short range stance is Sanchin, and its purposes can be found within doing it 1,000 times. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you watch this video. Hope I don't lose you too much, and I'll be putting out more stance specific videos in the coming weeks. So